The secret of 2 a.m. Have you ever wondered why some people's lives seem to change overnight while others remain stuck for years? Most people think success comes from luck, talent, or knowing the right people. But what if the biggest turning point happens when the rest of the world is asleep? This is the story of a man who believed his life was already written, until one unexpected night revealed the secret of 2 a.m. Before we begin, tell me in the comments, what time are you watching this video, and where are you from? Now let's begin. At the edge of a busy industrial city, lived a 30-year-old man named Ethan. Every evening, just before sunset, he put on his faded blue uniform and left for work. He wasn't a businessman. He wasn't an engineer. He worked as a maintenance worker inside an old textile factory. His job was simple but exhausting. Repair broken machines, clean work areas, and respond whenever equipment stopped working. Most nights he barely had a chance to sit down. The salary covered only rent, cheap food, and utility bills, nothing more. His apartment was so small that the kitchen and bedroom almost blended into one room. The paint on the walls had started peeling, and during winter the cold slipped through the cracked windows. Still, the worst part of Ethan's life wasn't the apartment. It was the feeling that every year looked exactly like the one before. Friends from school had become business owners, teachers, and office workers. Some had families of their own. Meanwhile, Ethan felt trapped in an endless loop. Work, sleep, repeat. Whenever his younger sister called, she tried to encourage him. "You've always been smart," she would say. "You just need one opportunity." Ethan always answered with a smile. "I'm working on it." But after every call, he knew the truth. He wasn't moving forward. He had applied for dozens of better jobs. Every rejection sounded the same. "We're looking for someone with experience. We'll contact you later. The position has already been filled." Weeks became months. Months became years. One rainy evening, after another exhausting shift, Ethan stopped at a small convenience store to buy bread and tea. As he stood in line, he noticed an elderly man sitting alone near the window. The man wasn't using a phone. He wasn't reading a newspaper. Instead, he quietly filled page after page of a small notebook. Something about his calm expression caught Ethan's attention. When the cashier stepped away, the old man looked up and smiled. "You look tired," he said. Ethan laughed softly. "I've looked tired for the last 5 years." The old man nodded as if he understood. "Being tired isn't dangerous," he replied. "Living without direction is." Those words stayed in Ethan's mind long after he left the store. 2 days later, life became even harder. His landlord knocked on the apartment door. "The rent is already 2 weeks late," he said firmly. "I'll need the payment by the end of the week." Ethan promised he would find the money, but he had no idea how. That same night, while repairing a machine at work, his phone vibrated. It was a message from his sister. "Dad's medical test results aren't good. Call me when you're free." Ethan felt his chest tighten. His father had spent decades working in construction to support the family. Now he needed expensive treatment. Ethan wanted to help, but he couldn't even pay his own rent. When his shift finally ended, he didn't go home immediately. Instead, he sat alone outside the factory. The city was unusually quiet. A cool wind moved through the empty streets. For the first time in years, he admitted something to himself. "If nothing changes, this will be my life forever." Just then, headlights stopped beside the sidewalk. It was the same elderly man from the convenience store. He rolled down the window. "I hoped I'd find you again," he said. "I've been watching something." Ethan looked confused. "What do you mean?" The old man smiled. "Every night, thousands of people finish work and rush home to sleep. But a very small number stay awake for one special reason." "What reason?" The man glanced at his watch. It was 1:56 a.m. He looked back at Ethan. "In 4 minutes, the most valuable part of the day begins." Ethan frowned. 2 in the morning? The old man nodded. "Most people waste those quiet hours. But for those who know how to use them, they become the beginning of an entirely different life." Before Ethan could ask another question, the traffic light turned green. The old man handed him a small card. "Tomorrow night, 2 a.m. If you're serious about changing your future, come alone." The card disappeared into the darkness. Ethan stood there staring at the card in his hand. On it was only an address, and 3 words that refused to leave his mind. "Don't be late." The next night, Ethan couldn't stop looking at the small card. He almost convinced himself not to go. What if this is a scam? What if the old man is just wasting my time? But another thought was louder. What if this is the opportunity you've been praying for? At exactly 1:50 a.m., Ethan left the factory during his scheduled break and walked toward the address written on the card. It led him to an old public library that had been closed for years. The building looked abandoned. Most of the lights were off. Only one window, on the second floor, glowed with a warm yellow light. As the clock struck 2 a.m., the wooden door slowly opened. The elderly man stood inside, smiling. "I was wondering if you'd come." Ethan stepped inside. The room surprised him. There were no expensive computers, no luxury furniture, only wooden shelves filled with books, a few desks, notebooks, and a large whiteboard covered with handwritten ideas. About 8 other people sat quietly around the room. Some looked young, some looked middle-aged. None of them seemed rich, yet every single one looked completely focused. The old man closed the door. "My name is Mr. Adrian," he said. "Welcome to the 2 a.m. circle." Ethan looked confused. "What exactly is this place?" Mr. Adrian smiled. "This is where ordinary people rebuild extraordinary lives." He walked toward the whiteboard and wrote one sentence. "Your future is created during the hours nobody sees." Everyone became silent. "You think successful people become successful because they work harder than everyone else," Mr. Adrian continued. "Sometimes that's true. But more often, they simply protect the hours everyone else wastes." He looked directly at Ethan. "Tell me honestly, when you finish work, what do you usually do?" Ethan shrugged. "I eat. I scroll through my phone, I watch random videos. Then I sleep." Mr. Adrian nodded. "Exactly. You are tired. So your brain chooses comfort instead of growth." He erased the board and wrote 3 numbers, 0.60 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes. "This," he said, "is the secret of 2 a.m. The first hour, learn one valuable skill. Not entertainment, not gossip, not endless scrolling. Only one skill that can improve your future. The next 30 minutes. Improve your body, stretch, walk, exercise. Healthy energy creates clear thinking. The final 30 minutes, write, think, plan. Review your goals. Most people spend years react to life instead of designing it." The room remained silent. Ethan listened carefully. Everything sounded simple, maybe too simple. "So?" Ethan asked. "That's all?" Mr. Adrian laughed. "No, the plan is simple. The discipline is difficult." He pointed toward the group. "Ask anyone here." A young woman raised her hand. 2 years ago, she said, I cleaned hotel rooms. I started using these hours to learn graphic design. Today I run my own freelance business." Another man smiled. "I drove delivery trucks. Now, I own 3. One by one, people shared their stories. None of them had become millionaires overnight, but every single one had completely changed the direction of their lives. Ethan couldn't believe what he was hearing. Mr. Adrian handed everyone a blank notebook. "This notebook is your contract with yourself. Every night at 2 a.m., write exactly what you learned. No excuses, no skip days. If you miss one day, start counting again." Ethan opened the notebook. The first page contained only one sentence: "Small actions repeated daily become extraordinary results." Before leaving, Mr. Adrian stopped Ethan near the door. "I have one more challenge." "What is it?" "For the next 90 days, delete every app that steals your attention." Ethan looked shocked. "All of them?" Mr. Adrian nodded. "If something controls your attention, it controls your future." That sentence hit Ethan harder than anything else. The next evening, he returned home after work. He stared at his phone. His thumb hovered over the screen. One by one, social media disappeared. Games disappeared. Endless entertainment disappeared. For the first time in years, his home felt completely quiet. The silence was uncomfortable, almost painful. His hand reached for the phone several times. There was nothing left to open. Instead, he opened the notebook. At exactly 2 a.m., Ethan watched his first online lesson about spreadsheet software. The information felt confusing. He understood almost nothing. His eyes became heavy. His body begged him to sleep. Every 5 minutes he wanted to quit. But then he remembered his father's medical report, his unpaid rent, his empty bank account. He kept going. The second night felt even harder. The third night, his alarm rang at 1:55 a.m. His finger almost pressed snooze, almost instead. He stood up, washed his face, opened the notebook, and began, again, 7 nights later. Something unexpected happened. The lessons that once seemed impossible suddenly started making sense. He completed his first small practice project. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. For the first time in years, Ethan didn't feel trapped. He felt progress, tiny, but real. Late one night, as everyone prepared to leave the library, Mr. Adrian walked over with a smile. "I've been watching you." Ethan looked nervous. "Am I doing something wrong?" "No, you've done something very rare." "What?" "You came back." Mr. Adrian placed another envelope on the desk. "This contains your next challenge. But don't open it until day 30. Ethan looked at the sealed envelope with curiosity. "What happens on day 30? Mr. Adrian smiled. "If you've stayed disciplined long enough, you'll finally understand why the secret was never really about waking up at 2 a.m. He turned off the lights. The room fell silent. Ethan looked down at the mysterious envelope in his hands. Whatever was inside could change everything. Day 30 arrived faster than Ethan expected. For an entire month, he hadn't missed a single 2 a.m. session. Every night followed the same routine. Study, exercise, repeat. His notebook was filling with ideas, lessons, mistakes, and small victories. The old Ethan would have laughed at this routine. But now, it had become part of who he was. That night, after everyone finished their work at the library, Mr. Adrian nodded toward him. "It's time." Ethan slowly opened the sealed envelope. Inside was only one folded sheet of paper. No long instructions. No secret formula. Just one sentence. "Stop preparing for opportunities. Start creating them." Ethan looked confused. "What does this mean?" Mr. Adrian smiled. "For 30 days you've been learning. But knowledge without action changes nothing." He handed Ethan another piece of paper. It contained the names of 5 small businesses around the city. "I want you to visit every one of them. Show them what you've learned. Offer to solve one problem for free." Ethan hesitated. "But what if they reject me?" Mr. Adrian looked him straight in the eyes. "They probably will, and that's exactly why you'll grow." The next morning Ethan visited the first business, a grocery store. The owner barely listened. "No thanks." The second shop wasn't interested either. The third owner accepted his business card but never called. 3 rejections. 3 disappointments. For a moment Ethan thought about quitting. Then he remembered something Mr. Adrian once said. Successful people aren't fearless. They simply refuse to let fear make decisions. The fourth business was a small furniture warehouse. The owner complained about constantly losing inventory records. Ethan smiled. "I think I can help." For 2 evenings he organized their inventory using the spreadsheet system he had learned during his 2 a.m. sessions. When the owner saw how quickly he could find products, he couldn't believe it. "You built this yourself?" Ethan nodded. "Yes." A week later, the warehouse owner called again. "This saved us hours every day. I'd like to hire you part-time." It wasn't a huge salary, but it was more money than Ethan had ever earned outside the factory. He accepted immediately. Instead of wasting his free hours, he now used his new skills to earn extra income. Word slowly spread. Another business called. Then another. Within 4 months, Ethan had more freelance work than he expected. His confidence grew with every project. One evening, the textile factory manager invited him into the office. "We've noticed something." Ethan sat quietly. "Your performance has improved. You're solving problems before anyone else notices them." The manager smiled. "We need someone to supervise maintenance planning. The position comes with better hours. And nearly double your salary." Ethan couldn't speak. Just months earlier, he had been worried about paying rent. Now, his life was changing in ways he never imagined. The first thing he did after receiving his promotion was visit his parents. His father was recovering well. His mother hugged him tightly. "You look different," she whispered. "You don't just look happier. You look confident." Ethan smiled. "For the first time, I know where my life is going." Several weeks later he returned to the library. The room looked exactly the same. Still desks, old books, quiet determination. Mr. Adrian was writing in his notebook. You did well, he said without looking up. It wasn't because of me. It was because you finally became responsible for your own future. Ethan asked the question that had stayed in his mind since their first meeting. Why 2 a.m.? Mr. Adrian closed his notebook. Because the time itself has no magic. The magic comes from what happens when the world becomes quiet, no distractions, no noise, no competition. Just you and the person you're becoming. He continued, some people wake at 5 av. Some work late at night. The hour doesn't matter. What matters is protecting a part of your day that belongs only to your future. Years passed. Ethan eventually left the factory completely. He started a small business, helping local companies organize their operations. The same man who once believed life had forgotten him was now creating jobs for other people. Yet one habit never changed. Every single night, at exactly 2 a.m., he still sat quietly with a notebook, sometimes learning, sometimes planning, sometimes simply thinking. One rainy evening, while locking his office, Ethan noticed a young factory worker sitting alone at a bus stop. The tired expression looked painfully familiar. He walked over. You look exhausted. The young man smiled sadly. I think life has left me behind. Ethan reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small blank card. On it he wrote only one thing. 20 a.m. Then he handed it over. If you're ready to change your future, be there. As Ethan walked away, he smiled. Years ago, someone had handed him the same opportunity. Now, it was his turn to pass it on. Because the greatest secret wasn't waking up at 2 a.m. The greatest secret was realizing your future is built during the moments most people choose to waste. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments. If you had one uninterrupted hour every day to change your life, how would you use it? The end.